Hey everyone, this is Allie from Chairside Chats. In this episode, I had the opportunity to visit with a retired Air Force pilot. I learned so many cool things about the Air Force and got to hear Ed's experience in Vietnam. Ed was also an instructor pilot, and he shared a few scenarios of where he had some close calls with student pilots. We talked about what retirement looks like for him and how the Air Force medical plan has been a huge blessing to him in his life. I hope you enjoy listening to this episode.
In those days, at a land grant college like Utah State and every other land grant college, you had a choice. You took 2 years of PE or you took ROTC. They had Air Force and they had Army ROTC there. And I'd always had the inkling I wanted to fly because I kept a scrapbook with all the airplanes in it. And I subscribed to a flying magazine, and I built a scrapbook of all the airplanes. Well, I also graduated in forestry, forest recreation, and timber management, and also the second lieutenant in the Air Force. I did really well at pilot training, and I graduated number one in academics. There was 60 of us, I think. Couple of aeronautical engineers and all that. And I attributed a lot of that. Before every test, I would pray for give me a calm mind that I could remember the things that I've studied. And I studied a lot. Didn't ask for it. Give me the answer, because that wasn't going to happen. But it did. It did really well in academics. I ended up being a tutor for some of my other classmates who were struggling. So a little farm boy from Oregon did really well. In flying.
Back then, what did the enlisting process look like for you when you joined the Air Force? Because you said that it was ROTC you could join. That's just how you went in and enlisted in the Air Force?
Yeah, when you're in college, like you did land grant college, I chose ROTC. You didn't have to continue on, but I wanted to continue on. They paid me like $200 a quarter to stay in the Air Force ROTC, and they bought the uniforms. And from that, you take the physical, and and the first physical, I actually flunked it for flying, for pilot training.
Really?
I told you go to the doctor, you have to have a physical, and I think we went to Hill, and he said, "Well, you ever get sick, motion sickness?" I said, "Well, yeah, sometimes go down Cabbage Hill into Pendleton, you get in a car, in the back of the car, you get sick, and so he put down motion sickness."
Oh,
And I come
wow.
back and said disqualified for flying, and an old sergeant there in the ROTC office at Logan says, "You don't tell them anything. We're going to write this off and we're going to get you a new physical. You make them find it out." That's what happened. And so I got requalified for pilot training. That's
Okay.
in the Air Force, it's pilots. The wing commander has to be a pilot. There are very few, and if you want to go in rank, it's a pilot thing.
Okay.
But I started flying, and I'd get sick. I got sick in the T-37, and the rules were, suppose if you got sick, you had a little barf bag, tie up my barf bag and put it in, you had to come back and land, and then I had to go see the flight surgeon and all this stuff. And my instructor finally got ticked off enough after about 2 or 3 times of this, because I could fly better after I barfed. He said, "Well, let's continue on." And I did really well. But every new maneuver that we had to do. I generally get sick, and we'd tie up my barf bag and put it in the seat and not tell anybody. Spins were the worst. You put T-37 into a spin, and it's going up and down like this, and then a circle. And you come out, you get the airplane out of the spin, and your head, everything is going up and down on the horizon as you just, and you had to fight it really hard.
So when you were training,
Oh,
how long did your training take?
it took undergraduate pilot training is 13 months.
Oh, wow.
Started the 1st of February. Very end of, 1st of February, and ended graduating in March.
Okay.
It was equivalent, what they said, it was equivalent to 3 years of college.
Okay.
We would start, we had really long days.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a union, so we didn't get overtime, but we would do academics. We switched roles. We did academics in the morning from about 7 till 1 o'clock. And then we do flying from 1 o'clock until we get up night flying till midnight. And next week we'd flip, and drove Grandma Loa nuts on the same schedule. She come in, because I'd be, and then when we finished academics, I'd be home as an instructor while I was just flying as an instructor. And so sometimes I'll be home till 11 o'clock in the morning and then go fly and won't be home until 11 o'clock at night. And then the next week I was gone at 4 in the morning and got home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It almost felt like that I wasn't flying the airplane because everything was perfect. The landings were perfect. The Cuban eights were perfect. The clover leafs that you flew were perfect. And I taxied off the runway, and I just kind of, when you transfer control in a fighter jet, you shake the stick slightly and say, "I've got it." Well, as I taxied off the runway to the taxiway, I kind of lightly shook the stick to my instructor pilot. In the back didn't realize that and say something like, "Lord, I can taxi it back to myself. Thank you for the great ride." And I got back in the debrief. Could you have a pilot that does all the check pilots, and they give you all the tests. Then they grade you on how well you fly. And he had great things to say about me. And he gets up and he grades me, and around me is my instructor and two other of my classmates. And he leaves. My instructor said, "Hey, Hurst, you've never flown that well with me." And I didn't have the courage to tell him I wasn't flying the airplane. But because of that, when you graduate out of pilot training, your graduation, where you score and where you land up, I ended up number 3 in the class. That determines where you go after, and you get your choice. The number 1 graduate, regardless, gets the choice where he wants to go. So the wing commander there at Vance said, "We don't really want to give you a choice." They kept the top 3 of us to be instructors in the T-38 at Vance. And that's where we spent many years, I guess about 4 years there. They took us into the F-111, and the train, again, brand new airplane, F-111F, a great airplane. And we went to Las Vegas to initial training in the F-111A model, the older version, and now it's all automatic. It's just, you just let go of the paddle switch. Down here, you set the template where you want to go. The navigator sets the point. All you got to do is manage the speed, and this thing is the proof to us. The build of faith in the system, we take out of Las Vegas, out of Nellis, and you set it down to 500 feet, and they take us down the Grand Canyon. We're down on the Grand Canyon at 500 feet above the river, and you got these towering sides, cliffs all on either side. And as long as you didn't turn it faster, and it looks 15 degrees either side, as long as you didn't bank into the river, into the side, you'll never hit it. Because if you gradually turn into it, it climbs up and over and down the other side. And that's how we built the faith in the system. In Oklahoma, where Michelle was born, Vance Air Force Base in Oklahoma was supposedly Indian legend. No tornado ever touched down in Enid, Oklahoma. Well, that one Sunday, Michelle is there, new baby. Ronald and Loy is there, and we're in a mobile home. And my neighbor down there comes running up and said, "There's a tornado just above us. The fingers are coming down." And she was all like frantic, and I opened the window and you can see out to the west, and it's just bright sunshine. I said, "No, it's not. Look above." And I looked above, and sure enough, it was. And she had went through a tornado in Wichita Falls, Texas, which went through the base hospital and carried several people. One lady in a car, they never found only the car door, and never found her. It picked them up and took them somewhere. So she was petrified. So we gathered everything up we had. You don't want to be in a trailer house in a tornado. And we went to the only brick building we had on the base, and it was the airmen's dorms. And so we're in the dorm for about 4 or 5 hours, and in the bathroom, you want to be inside, so we're in the big main latrine part of the men's dorm, and a guy walks in with his towel on him, thank goodness, and he looks at us, and Janice is sitting on one of the commodes, holding the baby, and they ask, "What are you doing in here?" I said, "We heard a tornado alert." And he got all upset. "I've been waiting to see a tornado, and I'd been sleeping all afternoon." This took place on a Sunday afternoon. There were no deaths in Enid, Oklahoma, because it went through the town, because generally everybody was in church. But it did, and you see pictures of straw sticking in trees, 2x4s. I saw that. I saw a 2x4 stuck through a tree, through a tornado, and it took the rock roof off of a house and dumped it into the swimming pool. It took a home and turned it 90 degrees, picked it up off the foundation, took it around, slammed it back down, broke out the windows of one house, which had 2 Ming bases sitting in the window, and it didn't touch them. I thought, this is strange. Tornadoes really strange. In Oklahoma, they just mentioned this on the news the other day. If you hear a train coming and it doesn't whistle, you'd better be in the basement. A lot of my friends were leaving being instructor pilots and go fly for the airlines. So I was one of those. I put, yeah, I'll do that. I'll go fly for the airlines. And they come back and says, "Nope, you got an assignment to go to Vietnam. You can't get out. You have to go to Vietnam in a new airplane, which is a 4-year commitment, and then you can get out after 4 years." Which, if you look back, that was the best thing that ever happened to us. Most of my friends went to the airlines, and then they always got laid off, and they didn't have a job for 2 years, and most of them went off to do something else, because that we stayed in, and we had the good medical insurance. Well, Janice had all the medical problems, but I went to, Mountain Home. Again, I just something your life is kinda guided. I I had an assignment to go to Texas to go to the RF4 trainings, and I asked, can I go to Mountain Home? And they said, well, there's another, you'll be closer to family. And said, well, there's another guy going. Maybe he would like to switch with you. So they got it all together, and we just able to switch everything. Survival school. He went to Bergstrom, Texas. I went to Mountain Home in the RF4. So they're getting the pipeline full going to the Vietnam, and so they pulled us out of the pipeline, the pilots, for about 9 months, and we stayed at Mountain Home on base, and then I went to Vietnam, fly combat missions out of Tom Sud, which is now Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City, but I got to Vietnam, and they, at that time, the people were not very friendly to military people. You did not wear your uniform going through California to get to Vietnam. You get spit on in the Oakland airport. The wives would get nasty letters congratulating you that your husband's been killed, the baby killer has been killed, served you right, and that kind of stuff. It was bad for the families, bad for the wives, what we're trying to do. But we went to Vietnam. We stopped off in the Philippines for a week, go through jungle survival. I learned a lot of things about jungle survival, about trees that give out pure water. It's like a maple tree. You cut a little hole, and you put a pig in it, and you put a container on the bottom of it, and as long as the sun is up, it would drip water in. So you get water out of it. And out of cut bamboo the section of bamboo had water in it, and you had to make sure you didn't have an insect hole in it, because if you did, then it was bad water, and you didn't want that. So we went through survival school, and those of us who were flying what we call out of country, for flying in North Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, we went through an extra day, what it was like, what was going to be like, and what to expect if you got shot down and if you got captured, and right away it was pretty grim. The worst place to fly was in Laos. If you got shot down, they just shoot you in the tree in your parachute. If you did get captured, then they just dig a hole in the ground and throw you down in the mud. And it rained about every day, and they had a bamboo top on it, so they didn't have any doctors, and they didn't have enough food for themselves, let alone you. And it was pretty grim. And we learned tap code, how to communicate if you got shot down in North Vietnam and you end up in one of the prisons up there, Hanoi, Hilton, or the zoo. There's two of them that I remember. How you communicate between other prisoners. If you end up on the top of a karst, that's just a big, kind of a tall a lot of limestone mountains on top of a lot of elephant grass that's really tall. And every week they would give you a code of what you chomp out if you can make it there, chomp out in the grass, because SR-71s would fly over twice a day and photograph the whole thing. You had a little chit card, a chit card that you carried with you in your uniform that says this is an American military, and he's worth 10 million or 10,000 or 100,000 worth of gold. You just turn him in the card, and that's what you get paid. And we flew with a vest all the time, which had a 38 revolver in it, 6 shots, and radio. A radio you had to have to get, if you're going to get pulled out, and 100-foot nylon rope to get shot because you get caught in the trees. The trees were up in the tri-border area, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, and Laos. There are 3 levels, 100-foot trees, and then 200-foot trees, and then above that were the 300-foot trees. So it was quite dense on the way down, and from that, we learned blue. If you're down and the bad guys are all the way around you, and they say, we're going to send a little blue, or you can ask for a little blue. And blue was nauseating gas. You're going to puke. And you're going to puke forever, and you'll be incapacitated. And then the BJs that come down, sort through who they wanted to pick you up, take you back up in the helicopter, put your head out for a couple of minutes, and you'll have a headache and a sore throat, but you'll be alive and you'll be okay. But that's the last resort. Just ask for a little blue. A lot of my fellow pilots, after that, said, I'm going to take 5 of them with me, and the last shot is for me, because I'm not going to be a POW in any kind of that area. If you can go what we call feet wet, if you have to bail out, go feet wet, whereas over the Gulf of Tonkin, because the Navy owned the Gulf. Go feet wet, bail out, and the Navy will pick you up. That'd be good. And the survival kit, when you bail out, the first thing that comes down is automatically inflates a little life raft thing. And below, about 20 feet below that, is a string, which carries a lot of shark repellent, because you're going to be bloodied, and the last thing you want is having a shark nibbling on you. So that hits first, and then and your life raft hits, and then you crawl in the life raft. But it was kind of grim. I went home that night, and actually in the middle of a typhoon. I never seen it rain so strong in all my life, and prayed, said, just keep me alive. So I go back to Michelle and Janice, and I'll do what you want me to do. But one of the funny stories, I said we stopped over to Vietnam. We stopped in the Philippines and went to survival school in the jungle survival school. Tell you, survive in the jungle and what to watch out for the snakes and not to get the water. But they were Negritos running around the natives in the jungle up there, just loincloths, barefooted, scars all over their legs. They participated and helped the Americans in the survival school, and they did that for 10 pounds of sugar, because they didn't have any sugar. And you'd go hide, and if you could hide, they gave you 2 tickets, and whoever had the most tickets got to get on the helicopter first, because we're way up in the top of the mountains in the jungle, and there were no roads. And so if you had the 2 tickets, then you got the helicopter first. And it just kind of proved that you can be in the jungle for a whole week and not eat and still survive. But and then we stayed overnight. You had to go out with your little parachute and what you had for survival gear and stay overnight in the jungle. And you had to make a parachute into an onyx, no gun, just a knife, and I kept the knife with me. And then all of a sudden, in the dark, I had all these eyes looking at me. I thought, oh my goodness, the lions and tigers and bears are going to get me. And all night, I had these flashing little eyes looking at me off everywhere. And I told um, the instructors, I was like, gee, man, all these animals out there looking at me, I could see their eyes. And they started laughing, and I said, oh, that's fluorescent mushrooms on the trees. Oh, they shine at night. Well, that was crazy. Well, we went on from there into Saigon, Consulate Air Base. We flew out of there. We got a really good as pilots. We lived in the old French military dorms. They weren't air conditioned, but we had maids for $25 a month. This maid took care of us, washed all of our clothes, did all those things. Those maids, if you were nice to them, they were nice to you. They knew you get a package, and they knew everything that was in that package. And I got a package once. Jenna sent me, I think I asked for a Sears catalog. And when I came back from flying that afternoon, she was there and she said, can I have that Sears catalog? Because it's worth about $25 in U.S. money on the black market. They can't buy anything out of it, but they can look at the pictures and see what you can buy.
Oh my
And that was in the bottom of that package.
Wow.
And Janice had sent me a Christmas tree in a tube, about a 4-foot tube, and you just kind of fold it up and shove it down the tube, and lights and all that, and all the rest of the guys would come by, and we kept that tree up until about February, because they wanted to see the tree. And if anybody walked in that they didn't know in that we call it the hooch, they were there at your door to make sure nobody stole anything, and they were there to protect you. And they, for $25 a month, think about that. They lived on that. Most of them were widows. We teased one once. She was a widow 3 times.
Oh.
2 Vietnamese pilots and 1 Air Force pilot. They kept kidding her, you didn't get married again. No, can't stand the sorrow. But they knew everything that you had. You'd rearrange you put your socks or whatever in away in the dresser, and they would come and they would rearrange it the way they wanted it. You had your shoes over here, it was underneath your bed, all lined up the way they wanted it. So you just kind of play game with them and switch things around. And they come back and it's all back to where they wanted it. But they were good. They were good people. Had one, another little risque story. We did a lot of night flying. So I'm in the shower about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, taking a shower. And the showers were like you see in a school, just a big square building, a square room, I should say, and the shower heads all the way around. I'm in there taking a shower, and in walks, this maid comes in, pushing her little Honda 50 motorcycle. And she proceeded to wash the motorcycle And I just stood there and finished my shot. And she washed the motorcycle. Then she washed her clothes. They all wore the same thing, a white top and black pajama bottoms, just all the time. So what they did. And when you see them walk uh, downtown in Saigon, they always had their little fingers. They'd walk and hold hands with the little fingers. It didn't matter whether you two guys or two girls or a guy and a girl. They just always, rather than write the hand, they got the two little pinkies. That's when they walked. They walked that way, all the time. One of the guys was he wasn't very nice to the mates. And he kept losing his jockey shorts. He'd always have to buy new ones. And one day he found out why, because the maids would steal them and cut the cotton off and they won the elastic. Go won the elastic and made clothes there.
Yeah, that's funny. Repurposing there.
It did.
That's funny.
But you think I've given her, while I left, given her lots and lots of good things. I had a little throw rug. I gave that to her, and some of the clothes, and I told her we'd send tapes, and that's how you communicate. I sent a tape to Janice, and by a week or two she'd get a tape, and I'd get one back, and what I talked about the maid and about the kids wanted in the orphanage about this little girl. The next thing Janet saw, Michelle was packing up all of her clothes and her dolls to send to me. They gave her the girl.
That's so cute.
But then once in a while, you got to talk on HF radio. If it was right at night, he'd bounce the radio signal off of the ionosphere to Mary Goldwater's station in Arizona. And from that, then he was really good. Senator Barry Goldwater. He had like 6 or 7 people, full-time operators, and he had locked you in with a phone call, long-distance phone call, to wherever you want to your wife, and you could call on the radio, and it's over. You have to say, "How you doing, Janice?" Over, because that means they got to flip the switch.
Okay.
It's over.
Yeah.
And she'd come back and say, "I'm doing okay." Over.
Oh.
How's the weather there? Over.
Oh my gosh.
It's not very good connection, but you could hear at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't wear a watch because what we call cowboys, there'd be 2 guys on a little Honda 50 motorcycle. They come flying by you, one driving a motorcycle, and one they rip your watch off. The most scared I got was I would jog. I go running at night, close. And I thought, these guys could come get me if they want. But the other scary thing was getting a haircut. The guy that did the barbershop, one of them was North Vietnamese. And you could tell the North Vietnamese and the South Vietnamese because they were bigger. They were taller. They ate more protein. They ate a lot of fish. But the South Vietnamese is generally all rice. And they had little bitty fish. But with the maids, if you come back about lunchtime, that place just stunk. Because they would throw these little fish in at the top, and about a month later, they come out of the bottom. It's just terrible. And they put that on rice. And you see them fishing all the time. The houses in that are on stilts because the rainy season, the river comes up, the Mekong comes up, and it washes away everything else. Well, you want to guess where they go potty? Inside. It just
goes right on in
Right.
the water.
Down it goes, and they wait for the rain to wash it away.
Oh my gosh.
The little kid, they're out there fishing for these little fish, but
That's probably why the fish are so little.
probably. But yeah, it was interesting, and they would go through the American garbage cans to take food home,
Oh,
bones or whatever we'd throw away. At the officers' club or at the mess, they would do that. And I ate most of mine. I went up to the mess and ate up there, and a lot of Koreans were there. The Koreans are really tough nut fighters. We taught them well. The Asians have no value of life, really. And if a base got rocketed, it was probably because it wasn't the Koreans out guarding it. If the Koreans were guarding the Air Force base or a military base, they'd go out there 10, 15 miles and say, you let the Viet Cong in here to rocket them, we will be back. I guarantee you, we are going to be meaner than they are. And it is true. they were good. They're good.
when you were in Vietnam, did you have to eat like the Vietnamese food, or did they have Americanized food for you to eat?
Oh, it was Americanized food. It was we were on base, and so you had a regular mess hall on the base. They even had an ice cream plant.
Oh,
Um, and on Sunday sometime, we flew almost every day or every other day. It didn't matter. I flew on Thanksgiving. I flew on Christmas, and I flew on New Year's. But on some Sundays, there was an orphanage that the Army had. The Army was associated with, and I went with them to work at the orphanage, and all the little kids, they just wanted somebody to hold hands.
oh,
They just want to hold your hand and walk around. And the bad part about the Army, what they did is they give you big bags of candy. So they give you all this candy to put in your pocket. And we've taught the little kids that we had candy, and they just swarmed over you and put their hands in your pockets, our pockets, and if you were in fatigues to get candy out of that. But there was one little girl about a little older than Michelle. They just wanted somebody to hold hands with. They wanted somebody to love them. And it was kind of sad. There were lots of cribs with babies with little IVs in them, and it's so hot. They had just on a little diaper, and that's it. It's hot and humid.
it's so hot.
And a lot of them are mixed babies. And if you're a mixed baby and you got an outcast, you're outlawed. And they had in Vietnam, they had Cambodians. They would go and capture Cambodians, and they were slaves. They bought them into slaves. And we get here in the United States worried about, the slaves are bad, but hey, that's what they did. In Vietnam, there were probably 90% Vietnamese, 10% Chinese, and the 10% Chinese were the merchant people, and they owned about 90% of the country because they knew how to work for money and have other people work for them. But the orphanage kids, it didn't take them long. They'd bring out gallon containers of ice cream, and they had, and of course, we had powdered milk, and they brought the milk over. We refrigerated into powder into milk, and they mixed the milk and the ice cream and made milkshakes out of them. I wouldn't think of that long for that. Because they had all these little glass, like plastic tumblers, and they get the ice cream, put the milk in, and stir it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd have chocolate syrup, but
These are the little kids?
these are the whole little orphanage.
Oh, were they just like around by where you guys were staying and everything?
Oh, there was like a little camp,
Okay.
little I guess facility
Mm-hmm.
they had that they ran because the mothers abandoned them.
Oh,
Mothers were put abandoned by
yeah.
some of the street workers and
Oh my goodness.
these little kids.
They figured that out. That's funny.
Flying there was a fun place to fly because they had the magnetic compass and the real true north are the same.
Hmm.
So you look on a map and you look on the mag, it's same. The wind was generally 0 to maybe 5 knots. So your ground speed's the same as your airspeed. If you did that here today, you probably have a 60, 70 knot wind up there, up flying. There was a rainy season and a dry season. And in the rainy season, it would rain every afternoon. Every afternoon, it would rain. But we did a lot of reconnaissance at night. We had infrared sensors, and we knew the North Vietnamese army was in Cambodia. They were in the rubber Michelin plantations, where they grow the rubber for Michelin tires.
Really?
That's where they were. They were safe there because we couldn't go over there. The French were our friends, right?
Okay.
The French and the British also. Tankers were delivering oil and gasoline and diesel up to Hanoi.
Wow.
They're part of our friends too. Yeah, right. So we would, about 8, 9 o'clock at night, they'd make a little fire and cook the little fish and rice. And so that would show up on the infrared film. And we would fly these square box patterns, 10 miles back and forth, a square mile. And you follow them. You could follow where they're going. That's what we did a lot of that at night. In the airplane, the SA-2 missiles, they would paint you on the radar, and you get a ping, and it show up on this little scope we got. And you in the headset, you go ping, and they come around ping, and when they lock on you, then it goes straight, and it's constant sound. And when they fire the missile, the guidance system is in the tail of the missile. So they fire the missile, and then the tail falls off, the booster falls off, and then they guide it from that antenna in there. And then it goes really high pitch, and strobe goes off, the bright red warning lights go off, missile fire, launch. Well, they had a nasty habit of spoofing you. They would do that and never launch a missile. But they're trying to force you to go down and hit the trees or take you down where the AAA would have at you. So one night we're flying, and they did that to us. The guy, they called him the Gib, the guy in the back navigated the Gib. And you got to defeat it, the missile, you have to find it. And you have to put it off your wing, and you take it up, and then you roll it over and you take it down, and the missile goes up over the top. Because when the missile would sense that it's no longer closing on you, it would detonate the warhead. So one night we're doing that. They were doing that to us, and got the launch light, and we're trying to find it up, going up and down and getting speed. Speed is your friend. Altitude is your friend. We're turning around, and then the Gib in the back says, I got it. He's coming. Turn right, and I turn right, and I hard turn right to find it, and it was the moon coming up. We all just kind of laughed, and oh my goodness, it was the moon coming up. But there was one night when I about killed myself. We're flying. The Vietnamese are very good road builders. I mean, we should have hired them long time ago, building roads. You go out and go down a road and do photography of it, and you come back a week later, they've got another 4 or 5 miles to it. They would, so you didn't see it, they would grow the vines up over the top of the road. So it's underneath the canopy of the jungle. And in the dry season, you could figure that out because the dust would come up and there's a string of dust on the trees. Well, that's where the roads are at. And they moved it, all the trucks were moved at night. Because the daytime, the rules of engagement were you couldn't attack them in the villages. So they would park in the villages during the day. They got more than 300 meters off the road. You couldn't attack them. So your only chance was at night. And they knew that because they had to go down the roads. And so we tried to find them on the roads at night. So we're trying, and they also built, if you built a bridge over the Mekong River, the fighter jets are going to come in and sink it, blow it up, and you have to rebuild it with steel and iron. So they would rock one. They'd build an underwater bridge with rocks underneath, wide, in a wide spot in the river. So the trucks would only be crossing it maybe a foot of water. And you couldn't really see it.
Yeah.
If it's, because the Mekong's kind of muddy.
Yeah.
You really couldn't see it, but you see road coming down to the bank and in several spots. And some were fake and some were real. So we're trying to find, at night, we're trying to find them coming across the river. Well, the Gib in the back, and we're in the mountainous area, the tri-border area where Mekong is up there in Laos. It's coming out of North Vietnam. And the Gibbs in the back is lost. Can we share a radar? I should explain that. We share a radar. We have train flying radar that goes up and down and back and forth. I have an instrument in the cockpit that has what we call the grass. And you've got a command line, and that is you. If the grass is underneath you, that's the ground. And it's best. He didn't have a very good radar when I got that. So I can flip it back and forth. I can give it back to him. And yeah, you set a radar altimeter down to 300 feet or whatever. That's the top of the trees. And it's looking straight down. And if you get below that radar altimeter, then a big red light comes on. So he's lost. And I'm in it's daylight. It's not really daylight, but the moon is lights it up enough that you can see at night. It's kind of like when you see a full moon here and you can't see the shadow of the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see the river and a little bit of the mountains and so I'm trying to help him. I do a cardinal sin. I don't fly the airplane. I'm helping him navigate. My primary duty is to fly the airplane. Well, the next thing I knew, a tree goes flying by my right wing. I look inside, and that grass is above the command line. The radar altimeter shows I'm 200 feet, and I'm going down. And I pull up, and I am so shaken that I can't even fly the airplane. I get out of there, turn on the autopilot, to send me back to Tansanut. It is over. That night is when the Holy Ghost kept me alive. He made, it goes back to that promise, back when I prayed about that really changed my life a lot. That I should have been dead. I should have hit the trees. Trees at 300 feet, and I'm at 200 feet. And I saw one go flying just, and I'm doing 450 knots I am zipping across the jungle. Should have died that night, but I didn't.
So how long were you there? You were there.
13 months.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you come home when it was over? The war? Did you come? Because, I mean, no, the war would have,
It was so long.
it's still going on.
Yeah. And they brought the squadron home, the RF-4 squadron. So I come home ferrying an airplane. And I brought to Austin, Texas. So we we flew the airplane up with tankers and all the way. You went to the Philippines first, went to Okinawa. Then ended up in Hawaii, and then we went from Hawaii all the way to Austin, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
It's and the tanker guys and the fighter guys, they kind of played games against each other. And one of the guys said, "Well, hey, can you do this?" He took you that forward, did a barrel roll, and then I come back to the tanker guy. Said, "Well, yeah, boys, I'm gonna get up and walk back and get a cup of coffee and a donut. You want a donut?" Of course, we're sitting. We're sitting on this hard seat because you can't have any cushion if you're sitting on a junction seat, and it was pretty hard. And you had a special meal. You had chili eggs and steak, something with they would plug you up, and when you landed, so you changed so many time zones. When you landed, before you landed, they gave you an upper bill.
Mm.
They were in the Doug beds, the Air Force class.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you up to wake you up. And then after you landed, debrief and head off to get some sleep, then they get you down or to put you to sleep. And that's what they did. But we've had a couple of them that had become monoed with revenge. That's diarrhea. It's just, there's nothing you can do about it. It's in the document. It's just that ends for 6 hours.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
so you want to watch what you ate before
Yes.
you started taking an airplane across the pond.
For sure. Because how long would you be in there at times?
6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours. What was the longest time you had to be in the cockpit?
It was about 6.
6? Okay.
Sitting there about 6.
Yeah, you can.
I was the control officer to launch the F-111s out of Mountain Home going to Korea. Those guys sat in that seat for 12 plus hours.
My God.
12 hours.
And you don't even sit in a car that long when you're traveling.
Oh, and you had a little bit of water to drink.
Uh-huh.
And that was it.
And that's like this, so they'd give you those uppers before you'd fly to keep you up. And then
the upper foot makes you land. That's the critical of the landing.
Yeah.
And the downers to make you down.
Yeah.
So you can sleep.
So then, once you take one of those, how long do you sleep? A long time?
Not really.
Not just to get a good night's sleep?
Get a good night's sleep and up you're gone. And
yeah.
When you did travel, you had to go to a piddle pack. It's a little plastic bag with a sponge in it. And so you could pee in it, and then the sponges soak it all up. But the women pilots today, I don't know how they would do that.
Yeah. No, that'd be interesting to talk to one of them.
Really?
See how you do that.
See how that.
Yeah.
But
oh my gosh.
But you did. You're on a helmet. All these people complain about wearing a mask at COVID.
Yeah.
I haven't think about wearing masks for 12 hours or 6 hours. You got a ring around your face.
And it's the full, it covers your whole face, and then
sealed.
It has the tube for you to breathe, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pressure related that as you go higher in altitude, it kicks in more oxygen because you have a bottle of liquid oxygen, 10-liter box of oxygen, and you generally don't use 100% oxygen, but you can. When you night fly, you would go 100% oxygen, which helps you with the eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And but it also gives you makes your ears pop a lot when you come off the oxygen. If you would lose the canopy and your mask comes off, or you had it off, because you can unstrap one side, we do that and wipe our face off. And if you're about 40,000 feet, which flew a lot between 40 to 45,000, you had 19 seconds to get the mask back on and oxygen on before you passed out.
Oh my gosh.
So it's important that that you keep your mask close and on.
Yeah.
And when we do the test flight and the 111, we made sure the mask was on tight before, in case the windshield caved in on it, because it's hectic if that would happen.
Yeah.
And rip your mask off.
Would that have caused like a lot of accidents? Would that have been one of the reasons? Did that happen often to where someone would come back? But every once in a while.
It does happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
And the limitation on the speed on the F-111 was the heat on the windshield.
Wow.
Window. They had a little thermometer thing that showed you as the heat went up on the windshield, and then when it's red, critical, you better throw that puppy down.
Wow.
So it just can keep right on going.
I feel bad because I don't really know a lot about Vietnam, because I think that when you guys came home, it was a touchy subject. Like, you didn't really talk about it, and you guys, it's sad because I don't feel like you guys were honored like you should have been. Yeah.
And you're not very popular. If they find out you're a veteran from Vietnam, life is hell for you and your wife.
That's sad.
We as Americans were not prepared to fight their kind of war. Because we valued things. We valued life and what they did, but they did not. And the Koreans, I told you, were great because they were the same thing.
Yeah.
We'd have intel briefings all the time. We went 5 at intel briefings about what was going on in the war, what to watch for. And these Koreans, there were about 20 of them, I guess it'd be a company of Koreans, had caught North Vietnamese game complex on the side of the mountain. And there's about 200 of them, and they wouldn't let them out. We're not surrendering, and we're not moving. They kept them there, and of course, the Air Force, they brought in the Air Force to do the bombing, and then they brought the Army in with artillery to do it, to take care of them. But you look at, and what they did in the villages, to the village chief and to his wife, the North Vietnamese did. They basically butchered him. So you hear of Lieutenant Calley, who was all famous. So they went into one village and they torched everybody and killed everybody, just about everybody. But you don't hear what he saw or what the Army guys saw, because they would find one of their comrades literally butchered, hanging in a tree. Butchered like an animal. And you don't know if there was life when that happened or not, but just to make an impression on the American soldier, and you don't want to come out here to deal with this.
Yeah.
It is pretty gruesome.
I wonder if that was the nastiest war in that sense of brutality, like that they just...
I think it probably was.
Yeah.
I flew the F-111F model, a great airplane, and it had the terrain following radar automatically. A typical mission for us, we'd take off from Mountain Home, and this would be a night sortie. Take off out of Mountain Home, climbed about 22,000 feet, come over to the entry point to a low level route, just around close to Baker, Phillips Lake, where I was raised. And you set the terrain following radar at about 500 feet. Well, yeah, 500 feet. And the navigator, which sits on the right now, we're on a capsule. So there's no ejection seat. The whole capsule, if you eject, the whole capsule comes off and you hit the ground with attenuation bags that absorb it. We did have the wing commander took off once and had a malfunction, electrical malfunction, and he had to eject. And at the factory, they did not hook up the attenuation bags, which they put a lot of the air goes in, it makes a big balloon thing for its soft landing. Well, it didn't do that, and he broke his back, and the right seater lost about 5 inches of spine, and he got crippled up, but he didn't. He could still move and didn't really break his back. But so anyway, that's the kind of airplane we flew, and we get clearance to go into a low level route, and you just had a paddle switch on that overrode everything. And you just like when the paddle switch, then it's all automatic, and we head south. It head south into Southern Oregon, and we were very desolate. Then across into Nevada, and we're going up and down the terrain at 500 feet, and then we turn to the east and go farther into Nevada, and then eventually we would turn north and go into Cedar Creek bombing range, which is just south of Mountain Home. We'd drop off, then we step it down to 200 feet and drop a little 5-pound bomb that simulated a high drag device, and they'd score that, and then we'd climb, and then from there we'd turn and head towards Twin Falls and climb to about 24,000 feet, and we meet a tanker, air refueling tanker that generally come out of Salt Lake, and he's sitting way over there by Pocatello, and we head towards each other. He's at 26,000 feet for spacing, and I'm at 24, and he gets within about 15 miles, and we're offset a little bit, and I tell him to turn, and he turns, and theoretically, we're going to end up behind him. He's doing about 350 knots. I'm doing about 450 knots, and so I have to slow down, and he has to speed up a little bit to closer to about 380, 390, and ideally we would be within close to 1,000 feet of him and below him, and then he lowered the boom, and we would climb up and get clearance to get the refueling, and the boom would come down. There's an operator in the KC-135 that's running the boom. When the boom comes down, the probe comes out, and just behind my head back here would be a door that would open, and the boom would go into that door, the receptacle, and you have to be pretty smooth, and he has to be really good, because if he bounced that boom off your canopy, you're going to break it, then that's not a good idea. But on the boom was an big orange dot, and it's lit up at night. There's lights on it, and it's green, and then it's red on either end of it. And my job was to keep it in the orange, because if you end up too far in, then you're going to collapse the boom into him, and that's not good. And you pull too far out, and then you'd pull the boom out. And we'd offload about 15,000 pounds of fuel. In the airplanes, they measure everything in pounds and not in gallons. So we're 15,000 pounds of JP4, which weighed about 6 pounds to a gallon. And we're going down track now. He's turned, and now we're going down the track back towards Pocatello. We offload the fuel, and you get clearance from Salt Lake Center, and he would turn left to go back, pick up the next fighter, and I would go straight forward, get separation, and then I'd climb to 42,000 feet and head towards Montana, Great Falls, Montana, what they had a radar bombing scoring site that the B-52s used all the time. And you get climbed up there and leveled off, and you're above the haze layer. You're over Wyoming. It's quiet. It's about 2:00 in the morning. There's no radio traffic to speak of. Way off to the right, you'd see, it's the summertime, you'd see the thunderstorms going across Iowa and maybe far Nebraska and South Dakota, and they're just like little Japanese ladders going off on these clouds. And you sit back, you turn the hot mic off so you can't hear yourself breathe, or you can't hear your weapons officer breathe, and it's unbelievable, the sight, because you're above the haze layer, which you don't get to see, and it's just beautiful. The number of stars, I think in the scriptures, there's enough planets and stars and sand on the ocean, on the beach, and it is just, and you contemplate that, and all you hear is the hum of the engines, and for about 15, 20 minutes, you can sit back and reflect on everything. And it is an amazing spiritual thing to do that. And eventually, Salt Lake Center would wake you up, but get your attention and hand us over to the bomb plot people. And we'd drop our little tone on them, and they'd score our bomb down from 40-some thousand feet. And because the F-111 carried called Mark 61s, which was a tactical nuke weapon. And one of those I was flying, he flies the simulator, and we practiced NATO going into we're in the Cold War, and we practiced for we had to drop on an airfield just inside East Germany.
So list all of the planes that you flew.
All the planes I flew?
Yeah.
I started off with the T-37, the Hammer, the jet, side-by-side seating.
Mm-hmm.
And we nicknamed it the Hammer because it just turned JP4 into noise. It was so noisy, and you lost a little bit of hearing, even with earmuffs and earplugs. You had earplugs in and earmuffs on, but you got that airplane. It was so noisy. So that's about 6 months worth. And then you switch to the T-38, little white rocket. Fun sports car to fly. And that's what you ride. You could not do a roll. You could not take the stick and bang it off the stop and back to neutral without doing full roll plus a quarter. You could not do only one roll. That's how agile that thing is. And supersonic is no big deal. You just watch the airspeed indicator go, oh, you're supersonic, that's it. I didn't tell you that I got into the F-111, and it was major, 2.2 Mach. I had every time you changed engines or did something major on the aircraft, they had test pilots, and I was one of the test pilots that took it up to 50,000 feet and 2.2 Mach, and swept the wings back. We would give you an example how fast that is. We would take off from Mountain Home and do a circle and climb, full afterburner, circle and climb. We get 30,000 feet, then we could go supersonic, and we go all the way up to 2.2 Mach. The time we got to 60,000, 50,000 feet, slowed down with a big jet stream behind us. We're almost Las Vegas. Yeah, that's you just think radar controllers would just say, "How fast are you going?" And I just blip, and the next blip, the next blip.
What does that feel like when you're in there? I mean, how do you even, like,
It's
I'm
different.
thinking you have to brace yourself. No, you just,
No, no. Like I said, only thing you know that you went supersonic is the airspeed indicator is a little blip.
really? You can't even feel it.
No,
That is crazy.
nope,
Oh my gosh.
you
So
don't feel it.
what was your most favorite plane to fly?
I think the F-111F was the T-38 was a fun airplane. I mean, you think you're, let's see, I was 20, 22, 23, 22, 23 years old. The Air Force gave me keys to a T-38 and I could go any place the United States wanted to. $1 million airplane.
Wow.
Just take off,
That's so
take students
cool.
everywhere they wanted to go. Go to
Yeah.
Las Vegas. Went to, one wanted to go to San Francisco. Went to Hamilton, which is closed, beautiful base, but they closed it down on the north side of the bay. No, most of the war was I flew. See, in Vietnam, I flew like 145 missions or something like that.
Wow.
If you flew, if you flew 100 over North Vietnam, then you got to come home. I ended up flying 15 and actually in North Vietnamese airspace. The most dangerous place was Laos.
Mm-hmm.
They had the most guns, and that was very on the squadron as you left. It had Sam's heights are about 20% kill ratio effectiveness. AAA was about 37% efficient. The ground is 100% efficient, like getting killed. You hit the
Mm-hmm.
ground or the trees,
Mm-hmm.
and there's several people that went out and
Yep.
disappeared
Yep.
because they hit the ground in the jungle.
Yeah. Jeez. You talked about refueling, but like when you fly in formation, how far apart are your planes?
Oh, you can. Um, Normally you're relaxed and you're out there 300 or 400 feet. But if you're in weather
Uh-huh.
on a tanker, I've been as close as the wing tip is sitting right there. Because you got to keep, because you refuel in weather and thunderstorms, and you not just clear blue sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come out of Vietnam. I ferried several airplanes, but I come out of Vietnam and we're in the weather storm and it's bumpy and that wingtip of that KC-135 was right there, about 3 feet away.
And how fast are you going when you're
We're
doing?
doing about 400 knots,
Oh my gosh.
bouncing up and down.
Uh-huh.
What's really what kills a lot of pilots is your inner ear controls whether you think you're upright or upside down.
Oh.
So you're flying off of this tanker, and he turns, and pretty quick you think you're turning, and then he rolls out and your inner ear, and that thinks you still want to turn, and you want to reverse it the other way. And and if you believe the inner ear, the eyes will override everything. The eyes will override it, but the inner ear will tell you you're turning right upside, and so they counteract and you just roll right into the ground, roll upside down into the water. You got to believe the horizon. You got to believe the instruments that we have. Well, two of us were flying T-38s, taking an instructor. I was in the back, the instructor on the other plane was in the back, and my student was on the wing, and we were going on cross country trip. We got into Colorado in a thunderstorm. Oh my goodness. And the switch, the switch to talk on the mic is over here.
Mm-hmm.
The switch to put out the speed brake to slow you down really quick is over here. So we're trying to climb over top of a thunderstorm, which is difficult. We're up to 45, 50,000 feet trying to go over the top of it, and we're not going over the top of it. The student pilot in the front, in the lead, rather than talk, flips the speed brake, and the airplane goes down.
Oh, gosh.
My student flying on the wing wants to stay with him. He pulls the throttle to idle and down, and we lose all this airspeed. We're going down, and I'm yelling on frequency, speed brake, get your speed brake up. And down we go. We go down into the thunderstorm, and I take control of the airplane. We get hit by lightning, and the instruments are just going, roar. I have no idea where I think what's level or what's up. Hit the afterburner and just think, I think this is up. And we come out of the top of that thing in an afterburner on a thunderstorm. And lucky we didn't hit the other plane, but he was 400 or 500 feet above me and to the left, and I was to the right, and it's covered in ice. We were covered in ice. Now the T-38 engines does not like ice. They take the old Bulwark missile that was a one-time shot, and they thought, we'll save money and we'll put those engines in the T-38. So you have any kind of ice that hits the turbines in that engine, and it's going to shred the engine. So you're up there and you have to wait for it just sublimate, just basically evaporate off the airplane. But I come out of that, geez, we're yelling on guard frequencies that just everybody hears you.
Mm-hmm.
Get me out of there.
Oh my gosh.
And I read an article in the safety magazine about the other trainer pilot who was flying a T-33. He ejected is in New York or someplace in the north, and he got lost and he ejected, went into the thunderstorm in a parachute, and he spent 45 minutes going up and down the wind drafts in this parachute, and the hail and that just battered his helmet, and his clothes were all shredded, and he had blood all over his face, and he landed next to a road finally, and he couldn't get anybody to stop because he looked
scary.
Looked like a zombie.
Oh my gosh.
But you fly over in Texas, and those thunderstorms they'll be 30, 70,000, 80,000 feet. You'll be flying, and you look up at them, and you got to be at least 10 miles away from them because they spit the hail out of the top, and it'll go out 10 miles. And you'll be out in the clear air, and all of a sudden, here's all this hail. It's going to hit the airplane, and that's not a good deal.
No. Oh my gosh.
Very big thunderstorms in Texas.
That's crazy.
Huge.
People probably have no idea. Like, you don't know if you're up or down.
No.
Up there, I mean, just that. Trying to fly through a storm, you have to be at a certain point of it so you're not affected by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy.
First started off in pilot training with a T-37, little Hummer, then the T-38, very fun airplane. After that, went to the F-4. I flew the reconnaissance version of the F-4. There was some of them at F-4C, and I went to Vietnam, and then I ferried a regular F-4 D model to MacDill, Florida. I flew the F-5 to Gaddafi, delivered that, and that was interesting. They fit you with what we call the poopy suit. So it's like a wetsuit. It's totally waterproof, including your feet all the way up and around your neck and around your wrists real tight. And Janice thought, being a poopy suit, you went poopy in the suit? You didn't take it off? I said, no. we did that. We had to be in that suit. If you bailed out in the North Atlantic, you had about 45 seconds to get out of the water and into the life raft because the water was so cold. You would go hypothermia real quick. And that one was interesting. Well, both of them. We flew, didn't have refuel. Let me back up. The F4 come out of Thailand. I flew from Thailand to the Philippines, not all air refueling, Philippines to Hawaii, and Hawaii to the United States, and then off to McDill, Florida. And the T-38 or the F5, we flew with no refueling. So we went from there went to Greenland, and Greenland is an isolated air base. And the American, there's like about 300 Americans on there. And he greeted me we taxied in, and he talked. He's talking to himself and talking to me. He hadn't talked to anybody for a long time, and he's still talking. The engine's running. I can't hear a word he's saying, but he talked all the way in. We went in, and he just jabbered along and got our weather briefing and refueled the airplane and went back out and took off again. And when you landed in Greenland, it was up a fjord, and you get in this valley, and it's kind of like a no place where we could have probably climbed up out of it, but the runway is at the very end of it, and you just one way in and one way out. But from there, we went to Iceland, and we stayed overnight in Iceland and Keflavik, and they didn't like the Americans very well, the Padasara, because the guy that served us breakfast wouldn't even kind of talk to us. You just tell him what you want, and he just Keflavik. And then from there, then we went to Scotland, and from Scotland, then we went to Germany at Ramstein, and then from Ramstein we went on to Libya, and we were able to fly over Switzerland. When we went to Aviano in Italy and landed there, refueled, and went from Italy over the Mediterranean to Libya. I flew the F4E model also for refueling and for delivery, switching airplanes. That's how you take airplanes from one country to the next, long ways. And then I flew the F111F model, and then they went to England, and I stayed, like I said, at home. I stayed because of Janice's health. I had an assignment to Aviano in Italy, and that's a beautiful base, but we couldn't take that. And then we switched to the A models come up from Nellis, and I stayed there and finished out in the F1A model, which is an older version of the F model, slower, not as fast, not the avionics, but it's a good airplane. In Libya, we all wanted to get out of there fast, and for navigation purposes, because we could not really speak Italian to the Italian and the French, although we were French controlled, but we were going through Switzerland. All these guys who were ground crew in Libya had their eyes, had one eye that was gone. It was kind of poked out or totally destroyed. And asked, why was that? Well, when the Germans coming down and went into Africa, North Africa, they recruited all the young men, 16 and above. And the mothers would keep their sons from going, would take their thumb and push one eye out so they wouldn't qualify to go in the Nazi army. And there was some weird looking dudes all, but that's the reason they did that. There was a little called Saberliner, a little 8-passenger jet that the Air Force had that led us and made all the made all the radio calls to get us there. We followed the Saberliner, and we got on the Saberliner, and quickly went back to Spain, and then from Spain we stayed a day, and then got on the Freedom Bird to come back to the United States.
How do they ferry planes? What does that look like when you're ferrying a plane?
We're just flying formation. We take off in General Tushia, the lead in the wing, and there's four of us, and we're just flying very loose, going over the North Atlantic. I was probably as much as a mile away from the lead. We just sit there, set the throttles, and didn't have autopilot on those airplanes. They were just straight. But when we took out of Aviano, Italy, it was the base was in a little valley, and I remember climbing low underneath the Saberliner and seeing all the TV antennas pass underneath me. I thought close we were. Oh, those old people down there, they had to listen to the jet noise because we were low. But I had a friend, another, I guess, we had a friend that was I went to pilot training with. He was an ex-navigator, and he was older, but he hit a little Sparrow in an F-111 low level in the Grand Canyon area, and that broke the windshield. The Sparrow hit that windshield and caves in on you, then it caves out the force, and then it wants to come back in the second time. The whole thing ends up in your lap. So again, inside the cabin, you got dust and dirt and everything flying. And you're disoriented. You don't know what you're doing. And he was low level, and immediately he punched the button and grabbed the handle and ejected the capsule on. The capsule hit upper part of one of the canyons and rolled down and ended up on a ledge at night. This is all at night.
Oh my gosh.
And they just stayed there. And when I woke up in the morning, it's sitting on this ledge, and they could roll down a couple of 300 feet if they got out and probably killed themselves.
Technology is probably so different now than it was back when you were flying the Air Force. Like, what do you want to talk about different?
Technology has changed.
Yeah.
Even when I was in the Air Force, it changed a little. It changed quite a bit. We would we had what we call inertial navigation system, and we would the F-111, the F-4. You're on your own. You do visual. You do everything visual at night. You're doing radar. Radar. They have a TACAN navigation system, gives you distance and bearing to where you're at. But everything in Vietnam was generally visual. You're trying to find a road. Then they went to the F-111 and they had an inertial nav. And at the end of the runway, we would update the navigation system. It's a whole bunch of gyros, what it is. And it's within 60 feet of the true Earth. And we always joke that the Russians had all the coordinates down perfect of the United States map. And we had the Russians, and we just needed to trade it so we know exact where we're at. But we could go out, and after an hour, we could update. The wizard would update the inertial nav off of a good radar thing. And we could drop a bomb within 100 feet.
Wow.
Of where, if they had the right coordinates of where it was at.
Wow.
And DMZ in Korea, when they went out to trim a tree, and North Koreans come and chopped up an Air Force sergeant or something in there, and they put us on alert. The F-111s, a squadron of them took off from Mountain Home and flew all the way to Korea with refueling, and that's about a 12-hour
Wow.
trip. It's sitting in a hard seat, and they deployed there because they were going to put a laser bomb. They knew the Korean lieutenant and his office, and they were going to put a laser bomb right on his desk with him sitting.
Really?
At the last minute, he got called up north to the capital, and they called it off.
Wow.
But if you remember Gaddafi
Uh-uh.
in Libya, well, he was a little mad guy, and he did some bad things, and I think he sunk a Navy ship or something. The F-111s flew from England. They had to fly down the coast and then through Gibraltar, across the Mads to do that because our, quote, friends, the French, would not allow the airplanes to cross French airspace. But they put a laser bomb right in his bedroom window. They didn't kill him because he was out in a tent, because they do that. The Arabs in their nice tents.
Mm-hmm.
He's out in a tent a long ways away from the house, but it made him so scared that he picked up and went clear down to southern Libya and hid out because he knew he was a targeted guy. But the F-111 put that baby right smack in his bedroom window.
And this was back when you were in there?
I was at Mountain Home because they took the F models to Europe, to England, and they brought the A models from Las Vegas up to Mountain Home. And I stayed there because Janice and her medical condition, they couldn't take care of her in England.
That's crazy. That even back then, that's what they were capable of doing.
Yes.
That's
now
incredible.
It's all GPS.
Really? Okay.
Now you're within 3 feet of GPS. 3 feet.
So they just do they just type in the coordinates to probably some computer and then it'll...
Yeah.
My gosh.
So you think about farming.
Yeah.
Farming, you overlap enough to drill wheat or whatever, and you have to guess and watch what you're doing. Today, with GPS, you set the coordinates in, and you're within an inch. You can go from one end of the field to the other end of the field, and it's perfect. An inch.
That's probably how they make corn mazes, right? When they do the design, they could do it that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. What is retirement like? Is there different ways you can do your retirement through the military? I thought I was hearing Grandpa talk about something like that one time.
Well, there are. I was active duty for 20 years, and so you get half of your base pay.
Okay.
And then it's upgraded for the cost of living every year.
Oh, that's nice.
And you get medical. The big thing for us was the TRICARE, the medical insurance. Now, if you go, your grandfather, he went into the reserves after that to get his 20 years in.
Okay.
And then he couldn't retire, I think, until a certain age. You get retirement pay for a certain age. Probably 60 or 62. Well, mine started right as I left the Air Force.
So once you get your 20, is it 20 years?
Yeah.
So once you get your 20 years in, then if active duty, then they pay you half of what your salary was.
Of the base?
The base salary.
Yeah, because of the pilot, I got hazardous duty.
Oh.
Yeah, I got another like $250 a month, something like that.
Okay.
And then if you're in the war zone, then they tack on another $250 a month or something like that.
Okay. So like So when you're active too, if you were in war, you'd get that extra money while you're at war, and then when you come home, they would take away the hazard pay. You don't get that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But so for him, because he did the reserve, he had to wait till he was a certain age to get his retirement, and then is there a way? Because once he passed away, it was gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? Because you can set it up to where they'll still pay your spouse, right?
Yes, you can. They reduce your retirement pay by about 35%, and then it goes on to your wife if you die.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't choose that. I didn't choose that because Janice's health,
Mm-hmm.
likely she would pass on before I would.
Right.
As our friend said, she's going to outlive us all.
I know. I keep thinking that too.
So they have that. If you die on active duty, then there's a $25,000 life insurance policy.
Okay.
If you go missing in action, they call you missing in action, then your pay continues.
Oh, really?
Regardless. So you always want to set up, when we went to Vietnam, you want to set up part of your pay to be transferred to a separate bank account, which I did for Janice, because your status may go unknown.
Yeah.
And so she continue to get part of that. If they put you on, your status is unknown. If you're still missing in action, then it continues on. And then once you're declared deceased, then it would stop.
Okay. Well, yeah. I never know how any of that works. So it's good to hear. People would probably be interested to know if they went and enlisted. I'm sure they'd get the whole breakdown, but no, that's good.
Well, a lot of people, they get short-sighted, and I'm tired of this going. I'm tired of being told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
After about 12 years, I think you're dumb. You need to stay in and get the benefits to that, because that's a tremendous benefit, especially the medical insurance.
Yeah. Is your medical paid 100%?
Yes.
And did you get insurance when you were working for the school district too? I guess it wouldn't really matter if you're covered 100%, but I don't know. Did you take it too when you were?
Yes. Yeah, we didn't have a choice, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's crazy.
They were covered. The transplant, they would have covered everything at about $50,000. That's $1 million for a transplant, for a lung transplant.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. You sit and talk about how your life is guided, and it's crazy to watch how all the little pieces have fallen into place to work out.
You get older like that. You look back.
Yeah.
You look back, and all this had a plan.
Yep.
I had an assignment to go to Vietnam. I didn't get out and go to the airlines.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairside Chats. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow. For updates on new episodes, follow us at Chairside Chats 24 on Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook at Chairside Chats.